Greetings. Welcome to GDIC's webinar for the OASIS+PhaseII, Technical and Engineering or T&E domain. This webinar covers both small business and unrestricted tracks for the T&E domain. My name is Cal, an AI assistant, and I am your host today. With me is Ab Vand, VP for Capture at GDI Consulting and a subject matter expert on self-scoring proposals. Ab will guide you through today's deep dive into the OASIS+PhaseII, T&E domain opportunity. Ab has over 30 years of experience in capture and proposal management. He is considered an expert in self-scoring as well as traditional proposal and capture efforts. Ab has managed over 1,000 successful capture and proposal efforts, including over 200 successful self-scoring proposals such as OASIS+. He has also held numerous training webinars for various APMP chapters and Apex offices throughout the US. So a few housekeeping notes. First, the link to the recording of the webinar will be sent to you within 24 hours. Second, we will hold a Q&A session at the end. You can send your questions during the webinar by the chat system to the right of your window and Ab will address them at the end. Third, you can download this presentation by clicking on the link under File on the right-hand side panel on your window. We highly recommend you download the slide deck so that you can always refer back to it. So let's see what this webinar covers. We will first give a quick intro to GDI Consulting Services. Then start with giving the general information on OASIS+. Next we will have a thorough discussion of the scope of the technical and engineering domain. From there, we will deep dive into the scoring system for the T&E domain, and discuss score optimization as well. Ab will also touch on how you prepare the actual proposal or what we call substantiation. The importance of compliance and factors such as pricing and partnering are also covered. Lastly, Ab will provide some strategy recommendations and experience sharing and then finish with the Q&A session. So with that, I will now hand over the control to Ab to start the webinar. Ab.
Hello everyone, and thank you, Cal. As Cal mentioned, we highly recommend that you download the slide deck to refer back to it. Due to limited time we have, I might skip some content, but I wanted to have a full slide deck prepared for you so that you can always refer back to it for full explanations. Also note that we are holding separate webinars for all the 13 domains under OASIS+. And I will post the link to the webinar schedule page on our website in case you want to participate in other domain-specific webinars as well. But note that in each webinar, some of the information is similar. I just don't want you to, see repeat stuff. But when we dive into the scoring system of that particular, domain, that's where the differences arise. Also, for those of you who are unsure if you should go after this opportunity at all and whether you have the minimum requirements or not, we have a pre-qualification assessment service for just $490, and we assess your contracts and tell you your chances and gaps so that you can be sure of your eligibility with minimal cost. I will put the link to that page on the chat as well. Okay, let's start now. Let me very quickly give you a short intro to our company and then dive into OASIS+. So GDI Consulting has been in business for over 15 years, and we have established ourselves as the premier self-scoring experts in the market. This is not a boast. Just see those numbers, including the fact that we prepared 97 successful proposals for our clients in OASIS+, the initial bidding. So 97 awards we got. That speaks by itself. We have over 650 satisfied repeat clients, 86 of whom are very large businesses, some on the top 10 list of largest defense contractors. You can later refer to this page for more information on our company because we're short of time, so I'll skip the rest of this stuff. Now, I won't go into the details of our services as most of you are repeat webinar viewers, and will just suffice to say that we have 4 main lines of service, including proposal development, capture management, specific support services like competitive intel or price to win, and finally customized training. So we strive to be a one-stop shop for federal and SLED BD needs of small and large companies. Okay, let's start with the OASIS Plus then and get some general info about it. We call it OASIS Plus 101. So it's good to take a look at the previous OASIS contract, which ran from 2015 to 2025. These years are approximations as there were different pools awarded at different times. So this is the graph showing the government's spending on this contract during its course of performance. And you can see that towards its end, the government was spending about $10 to $12 billion per year on this contract. Blue is the unrestricted contracts spendings, and orange is the small business contracts spending. Okay, and in terms of the top 10 agencies using OASIS, obviously GSA has been the main user, but since these numbers are all in the billions of dollars, don't underestimate the other agencies involved. More than 30 agencies have been buying services through this contract. Okay, so let's now look at OASIS Plus. That was OASIS, the previous contract. Let's now look at OASIS Plus. So we have the general information. GSA is the contract owner. It's a multiple award IDIQ GWAC, government-wide acquisition contract, meaning that all federal agencies can actually put out task orders under this. It has an open ceiling, number of awards unlimited, and this phase 2 also unlimited as well. Contract duration is 5 years plus 1 additional 5 years. You can think of it as an overall 8 years now, because we are nearly 2 years into it, or less than 2 years actually. First round was awarded. Phase 2 has started January 12th, 2026, officially has started. And it's a rolling admission system, so there's no due date specific. Obviously, the sooner you can get on it, the better, because then you can participate in the task orders that are out there. Now, there are 6 tracks, as they're called. You can think of it as 6 different contracts. The contracts are segregated by the type of company. So there is a total small business contract or track, 8A small business, hub zone small business, STV OSB, WOSB, and unrestricted. So these are the 6 tracks that we have. Now, just so we have one vocabulary, from here on, when I discuss small business, when I say small business, I mean the first 5 tracks. So all these, the total small business, 8A, hub zones, STV, OSB, WOSB. From here on, when I say it's a small business, especially when we go into the scoring, meaning all these 5. So if you're in any of these, that's you. And then we have the unrestricted, or UNR for shorthand on that. Now, in terms of the numbers of the original OASIS Plus awards, you can see that 588 unrestricted, 1,375 total small business, STV OSB 345, WOSB 309, 8A 181, Hub Zone 131. The numbers might be a little bit more than these because these are, I think, a couple of months old. They might have awarded a few here and there. But do remember that, first of all, there's no competition. So these numbers might double as far as the government is concerned. I mean, there's no competition for phase 2. And also don't forget that this doesn't mean that, for example, if you're going for STV OSB, you have 345 competitors. No. These are, separated into the domains. So we're going to have, these are about the 8 previous domains. 5 have been added for overall 13. So it's not that, these are the numbers of your competitors in each of these set aside socioeconomic types. It also depends on the domain as well. Now, in terms of the domains, left-hand side, the orange domains, these are 8 of them. These were the original OASIS Plus. Now they've added 5 more on the right-hand side, the green ones. So technical and engineering, T&E, management and advisory M&A, research and development R&D, intelligence services, enterprise solutions, which is only for unrestricted track, facility services, logistics services, environmental services, and to the right, business, these are the new ones, business administration services, human capital services, financial services, marketing and digital outreach services, and finally, social services. So it nearly covers all types of services work except horizontal and vertical construction. Even construction trades are included in facility services domain. So even the trades are there, just the horizontal and vertical construction services are not there. Now, many call this non-IT services contract. That is a mistake. Out of the 97 clients that we helped win on this, 36 of them were IT companies. So depending on the type of IT work, many of them fall in the parallel to the type of work done under, for example, technical and engineering. The first one, first domain, research and development, third one, and intelligence services, and perhaps even in the new domains. So that is why many IT services companies can and should also go for this opportunity. Okay, so let's start on the main topic of our webinar, which is the technical and engineering, or T&E domain. So the scope of this domain includes requirements to provide specific engineering, geoscience, or other technical professional skills, such as those performed by engineers, geologists, geophysicists, and technicians, required to handle specific operating conditions and problems for the benefit of the government. So work under this domain typically involves the application of physical laws and principles of engineering in the design, development, and utilization of machines, materials, instruments, processes, and systems, and also providing expert advice and assistance on technical functions and issues. Now, sub areas include but are not limited to what is listed here on this slide and next one. For the sake of time, I will not go through each of them, but you can refer to this later. So if your line of business is in any of these, then this is a fit opportunity for you. You should expect to receive task orders with a similar scope as once you're awarded on this IDIQ. And this is the second slide listing the continuation of the sub areas of the scope of the T&E domain. The relevant NAICS codes and PSC codes, PSC stands for Product and Service Code, for T&E domain include those listed here, specifically 541330, engineering services, and all three exceptions, 1, 2, and 3, plus 541370 and 541690, which is other scientific and technical consulting services. But we will come back to this when we discuss scoring. This is an important issue, both the NAICS and the PSC codes. So I'll discuss this later. So if your firm activities align with the scope of the T&E domain, this is your chance to gain a spot on the OASIS+. From small business specialists to experienced incumbents, there's room for many participants. So who should participate? Let's discuss the types of companies who should actually go after this opportunity. So the first type of companies are systems engineering and integration primes. Those who do SE&I, that's systems engineering integration, HSI, human systems integration, interoperability, life cycle, and mission assurance. Second type of companies are defense, aerospace, and weapons support contractors. Those who do operations and maintenance, independent verification and validation, test and evaluation, and mission systems. Third type of companies are advanced technology and modeling firms. Those who do modeling and simulation, digital engineering, red teaming, and wargaming. Fourth type of companies engineering, analytics, and data centric firms. Those who do data analytics, technical assessments, and configuration management. Fifth are energy, environmental, and infrastructure engineering companies. Those who do energy services, environmental engineering, and civil or mechanical engineering work. Finally, the last type of companies are software-enabled engineering firms. Those companies into software engineering under, but this is exception, under 4 USC 11103A. That is software engineering towards intelligence activities, cryptologic activities, command and control, or integral part of a weapon or weapons system for the US government. So it's not all IT firms, but software engineering firms specifically towards 40 USC 11103. Okay, so if you're good that we want to go after this domain, let's understand the scoring system. I'm assuming that you're familiar with the concept of self-scoring proposals. If not, please refer to our previous webinars on the subject. Because we don't have the time to actually go into the differences between self-scoring proposals and traditional proposals. Okay, so from here on, we're going to talk specifically about technical and engineering domain scoring system. So this is specific to the T&E domain. So overall, there are 50 points, whether you're small business or unrestricted, doesn't matter. And when I say small business, I'm talking about 5 different tracks. Total small business, women-owned small business, 8A, hub zone, and STB OSB. All of these are considered small business when I'm talking from here on to when I say a small business. And then you have large businesses, which is the unrestricted track. So 50 points is the maximum. Now, you have to get above 36 points for small business and above 42 for unrestricted to be awarded. So let's discuss what parts or what score factors create those points for you. There are 3 of them, 3 main score factors. Qualifying projects or QPs, and from here on I'll be discussing when I say QPs, means qualifying projects or contracts in effect. And there are 5 of them. So 5 qualifying projects will give you 41 points for small business and 40 points for unrestricted. Then we have federal experience projects or contracts, FEPs, maximum 5 for both small business and unrestricted overall. And then systems clearances and certifications, 4 points for small business and 5 points for unrestricted. So from these numbers, you can see that those 5 QPs, 5 qualifying projects, are the king. They are the key players. And if you look at it graphically, again, you can see the importance of qualifying projects compared with the other 2 in terms of the score you can get. Now, from here on, I'm going to go into the detail of each of these 3 score factors. Each of them have their own sub-factors that will constitute your overall score. So let's start with the QPs. Which are the main score factor. So the QPs themselves have 5 sub-factors. Relevance, scale, integrated experience, management and staffing, and past performance. Remember, I said you're supposed to provide 5 contracts or 5 QPs. Now, each contract is weighed against these 5 factors, or sub-factors, I should say, and then you get points for it. You know, depending on the relevance and scale, and I'm going to go into details of them, you get a point for each of the 5 contracts that you have. So let's start with first viewing graphically their score. So you can see that relevance with 20 points will give you the highest, although at the end of the day, you will need all of these to make sure that you get above 36 or 42. And from here on, whenever you see blue, it means small business, and orange is unrestricted. I forgot to mention this earlier. So let's now go into each of these and see, for example, 20 points under relevance, how it's made up of. So we start with relevance. You can have up to 5 QPs or contacts, as I said. Each of them will get 4 points under relevance for a maximum of 20 points. Now, 5 QPs, I said, well, 5 contracts. Now, the type of these contracts can be federal prime contracts, federal subcontracts, or commercial contracts. And commercial means state and local as well. Or maybe you work for Apple or for some other company. That's commercial, as well as any contracts that you had with state and local entities. But there's no difference for the government. For OASIS Plus, there's no difference between federal prime or commercial contracts. You get the same points. Now, if you're using federal prime contracts, they can be standalone contracts or task orders under single or multiple award IDIQs or BPAs, or FSS or GSA MAS or BOAs. Note that I said task orders under, not the IDIQ or BPA itself. So you can't use the award for that unless it has a task order under it, and you take that task order as one contract. Also, OTAs, other transaction authority contracts, are allowed. You can use those, but grants and co-op agreements cannot be used. Finally, contracts must be based on FAR Part 37 services and not supplies. So you can't use a contract that you provided, for example, equipment to the government. It has to be of the type services. Now, there are 4 requirements for these 5 contracts that you bring to the table for relevance. We're still under relevance. First requirement is the minimum annual value. For small business, it has to be above $500,000. For large business, it has to be above $1 million. This is not the total value. This is the annual value. So how do you calculate that? For ongoing projects, you take the total expected contractual value and divide by the total expected contractual duration. So whatever is written on your contract award, say you have option years are included too. So say you have a contract, you're in the first base year, and then it has 4 option years, and you are in the first year. The total value with all options is $10 million. You take that $10 million and you divide by 5, even though you're in the first year. So the total annual value for this contract is $2 million. That's for ongoing. Now, if it's a completed project, the total obligated value, whatever you were paid, is divided by the actual duration of the contract. Maybe it was a 5-year contract on paper, but it took 6 years. So you divide by 6. Whatever you were paid, divide by 6. Or maybe you finished it in 4 years instead of 5. You divide by 4. That's how you calculate the annual value for completed projects. The second requirement is the contract date. If the contract is ongoing, it must have at least 6 months of performance. If it is completed, it must have been completed within the past 5 years. From what date? From the date you submit your proposal. So 6 months from the day for performance for ongoing projects, from the date submission of your proposal, or if it's completed, 5 years from the date of submission of your proposal. That's the recency or the contract date requirement. The third requirement is past performance rating. For each contract that you bring to the table, the average CPAR's rating must be above satisfactory, and I'm going to explain later on how you calculate that above satisfactory. Not satisfactory, above satisfactory. If you don't have a CPAR's, then there's a form JP6. You can use that. For example, if you have a subcontract, or if you have a commercial contract, or you have a prime contract but it just doesn't have a CPAR's, you use that. And then finally, the most important part is relevance towards the scope. Now, this is done through showing that your contract has one of the auto-relevant NAICS and PSC codes. I'm going to show you the list on the next slide. If your contract doesn't have that, then you must show it through a JP3 form and citations from the SAO. You have to get that signed by the contracting officer or your prime. So let's now look at the NAICS codes and the PSC codes. So this is the list of the auto-relevant NAICS codes and PSC codes, meaning that if your contracts and for each of the 5 QPs that you bring to the table, it has one of these NAICS codes like 541330 or exceptions 1, 2, 3 or 541370 or 541690. You don't have to provide any other documentation. You're good to go. in terms of relevance. Or maybe the PSC code is auto-relevant. So it's an auto-relevant PSC code like R412, R425, or R428. And note this is an either or, meaning that if you have the NAICS code and don't have the PSC code, that's fine. If you have the PSC code, don't have the proper NAICS code, that's still fine. Okay, so either of them are good to go. If you have them, you don't need any other documentation. If you don't have these, then you have to get that JP3 form signed by the contracting officer or your prime or the owner of the contract if it's a commercial contract, attesting to the relevance to technical and engineering domain. Okay, so that was the first subfactor, relevance. Now let's look at the second subfactor, which is called scale. For each QP contract, you get a point if the annual value is greater than or equal to $1 million for small business and $2.5 million for unrestricted. Remember that the minimum value was 500K for small business and 1 million for unrestricted, but here you get an extra point if it's above 1 million for small or above 2.5 for large businesses. Now, maybe the value is not high, but the number of FTEs, that's full-time employees, is greater than or equal to 5 for small business and 12 for unrestricted. Either of these two is good, and you get a point for that, extra point. Now you get a second extra point, so that's a second point if the annual value of the QP is equal to or greater than $4 million, and for unrestricted, $10 million. Or again, if the value is not high, but the number of FTEs is larger than 20 for small business or more than equal to or more than 50 for unrestricted, then you get a second point. Now note that the credit is provided for total annual project value, not just a portion relevant to the technical and engineering domain. Maybe you don't have to sit down and calculate that. The overall value is good enough. Also, the total maximum score of this subfactor is 6 for both small business and unrestricted, meaning that even if all 5 contracts that you bring to the table get 2 points each, that would be 10 points, you still don't get more than 6. So the overall under this subfactor is 6. So you need to be aware of this when you're calculating your total score. Okay, so let's go to the third subfactor, which is called integrated experience. Here you get 1 point per QP if 5 or more labor categories, LCATs, were used in the execution of your contract, like 1 clerk, so the number of people that you use to perform that contract, 1 clerk, 1 engineer, 1 project manager, whatever. And then for each of those has 4 different levels. So you have junior, mid-level, senior, and then SME for each of those. So any of those is considered a separate one. If you had 5 or more, you get 1 point. Or for that QP, if the scope of the contract covered 3 or more domains, technical engineering is 1 domain, but maybe the scope also had a little bit of financial work, a little bit of marketing, a little bit of whatever, R&D, whatever. It doesn't matter how the amount of the work, the value or hours, anything like that. As long as the scope did cover that, and it's 3 or more, you get a point. Now the thing is that it's either or, meaning that for each contract you don't get 2 points. Even if it has more than 5 labor categories and more than 3 domains, that QP, you still get 1 point for that QP. And the overall, therefore, is small business 5, and unrestricted is in fact 4. So you have to be aware of these numbers. Now the fourth subfactor is management and staffing. You get 1 point for each of these 3 different subfactors, which is surge, number of subcontractors, and number of personnel with clearance. What does surge mean? It means definition is increase of more than 10% of the value of the contract or work requested by the scope of the contract in less than 45 days of lead time. This is considered surge. So if you had surge in your contract, Or if you use 3 or more subcontractors in the performance of your contract, 5 for unrestricted. And subcontractors doesn't mean the entire duration. Maybe you use the subcontractor for only a day, for five days, a week, whatever. And consultants also count. Or if you use 5 or more personnel with clearance, secret, top secret, SCI, or Q for Department of Energy contracts, 5 or more, and then you get a point for each of these. So one contract can have 3 points when it has all of these. It has a surge, it has 3 or more subcontractors, 5 for unrestricted, and it has 5 or more personnel with clearance. You get 3 points for that contract. But overall, for the 5 contracts, 5 QPs, you cannot get more than 7 points for small business and 6 points for unrestricted. Okay. Now the last subfactor is past performance. If all 5 contracts that you bring to the table have a positive, meaning above satisfactory, past performance ratings in their CPARs, average CPAR, or JP6 forms that have been signed, you get a maximum of 3 points. That's for both unrestricted and small business. If 4 out of the 5 have above satisfactory, you get 2 points. If 3 out of the 5 have above satisfactory, you get 1 point, and below that you don't get any points. A few important notes. You can use a JP6 form instead of a CPARs only if there is no CPAR. So and you have to make sure that the JP6 form is actually sent back to you. You have to get it signed by the contracting officer or your prime, and it has to be sent back to you, and you put it as part of your proposal. Now I will explain how to calculate that above satisfactory on the next slide, but note that for the unrestricted track, there's one extra point that comes if all 5 contracts that you bring to the table have a very good or exceptional rating for small business utilization subfactor in their CPAR or JP6. If that's the case, you get 1 extra point there. So now let's see how you actually calculate the above satisfactory rating. Let's first discuss the subfactors under CPARs or JP6. They're similar. So there is a technical, or sometimes called quality of service. There is a schedule, or sometimes called timeliness. There is cost control. There is management, or sometimes called business relations. And finally, there is small business subcontracting or small business utilization. Now, the way you calculate your average score is that you give a point score to the ratings. That is, exceptional is considered 5, very good is considered 4, satisfactory is 3, marginal is 2, and unsatisfactory is 1. You replace these numbers for the ratings, add them up, then divide by the number of the applicable ones, and that's how you get the average. Now, if a rating is NA, not applicable, you don't count it. So let's look at this example in the orange box we have. So assume that you have a QP with a CPAR with these ratings. So the technical has been rated as exceptional, you put a 5. The schedule has been rated as satisfactory, you put a 3. Cost control is marginal, you put a 2. Management is satisfactory, you put a 3. Small business utilization is NA. There was no small business used. So how do you calculate it? You add these up. 5 plus 3 plus 2 plus 3 comes to 13. You divide it by 4, not by 5, because small business utilization was NA. So you divide by 4, you arrive at 3.25. Now, satisfactory is 3, so 3.25 is considered above satisfactory. It's good to go. You can use this contract. So this is how you actually calculate above satisfactory for each CPAR or JP6 form that you have. Okay, there's also one special case that I want to cover. If you have a single award IDIQ or BPA, and my emphasis is on single award, and you being the prime, then you're allowed to bunch up the task orders together and consider it as one of the 5 QPs. You can do this just once, so just one of your QPs can be like this, 1 out of the 5. So let's take an example of, say you have a single award IDIQs. Task orders all have annual values of, say, $100,000, $80,000, $120,000. So you can't use them, because if you remember, the annual value has to be above 500K. But you can bunch up together 5 or 6 of these task orders to get above 500K, bunch up the number of FTEs, bunch up the number of subcontractors, so on and so forth, and get points for them. So that's why it's called a collection of task orders, and it's important if you have this kind of IDIQ or BPA with multiple task orders, and there's no limit, maybe you add up 30 very small task orders to get above 500K or anything like that. Same stands for unrestricted, of course. So that's something to consider. Okay, so that was the first main subfactor, the QP factor and subfactors. Let's now consider the second main score factor, the FEP, or Federal Experience Projects. The name is on it, Federal Experience, meaning that you cannot use commercial or state and local. It has to be federal contracts. There are 2 subfactors involved here. One is the number of task orders you have received, and one is the number of federal agencies you have worked with. I'm going to discuss each separately. So starting with the first one, you get 1 point for each task order that you have performed under a multiple, emphasis on multiple, award IDIQ or BPA. And you must obviously be the prime. You cannot be a subcontractor to a multiple award IDIQ and then get points. You have to be prime on it. The maximum point is 4, meaning that you can have up to 4 different task orders, 1 point for each. Now, these can come all from different multiple, IDIQs or BPAs, or they can come from one. Doesn't matter. Also, these contracts don't need to be the same ones you used for the 5 QPs. They can be completely different, or maybe there's a mix. So the requirements, one is that it has to be task order under a prime federal services multiple award IDIQ or BPA. And secondly, you must have an annual value over 250K. It's the same for small business and unrestricted. So the annual value here must be 250K or above. And it must be ongoing for 6 months, if it's ongoing 6 months of performance, or if it's completed within the past 5 years from the date of submission of your proposal. Important point, their scope doesn't have to be relevant to the domain. So even though this is a technical engineering domain, you might have task orders that are about marketing. They might be about finance, whatever, doesn't matter. Okay, so that's something to consider. The second subfactor is about the number of federal agencies you have worked with. If you can show that you have worked with 3 different agencies, you get 1 point extra. Work meaning you've gotten contracts, and they must be standalone or task orders with these with the same requirements. So federal prime contracts, annual value over 250K for small business unrestricted, same, and 6 months of performance if ongoing or completed within the past 5 years from the date of your proposal submission. Again, here you don't have to show any relevance to the technical and engineering domain, and the contracts don't have to be the same ones you used for QPs or even the previous subfactor for FEPs. These can be completely 3 different contracts, completely different and new. Okay, so that was the second main factor, FEP. Now the third main factor is the systems, certifications, and clearances. This is a graphical comparison of the subfactors. They're essentially accounting system, or sometimes called systems, facility clearance, and other certifications. And I will go over them very quickly. So for the business systems or accounting, you get 2 points for accounting, approved accounting if you're a small business. For unrestricted, if you have 2 of these that are listed, there are 7 systems listed: accounting system, approved rates, purchasing system, estimating system, EVMS, material management and accounting system, property management system. If you have 2 of these, I'm talking about unrestricted, you get 1 point. If you have 3 of these, you get 2 points. That's how it works for unrestricted. For small business, you just have to have an accounting system, you get 2 points for it. Now, all of these must be government approved, not third-party approved. So if you have a accounting system that is third-party approved, you cannot use it. It has to be government approved. Okay, facility clearance is straightforward. If you have an active top secret or secret facility clearance, you get 1 point. I said active, so pending doesn't count. It has to be active at the time of proposal submission. Finally, other certifications, there's CMMI level 2, ISO 27001, ISO 9001, and note this is 2015. The previous ISOs cannot be used. ISO 22301 and CMMC level 2 or higher. If you have one of these, you get 1 point for small business. For unrestricted, 2 points, one for each. So any two of these, you get 2 points for unrestricted. Finally, there's a special case, mentor-protege JVs I want to cover. If you're submitting your proposal as a mentor-protege JV, for QPs, at least one QP must come from the protege company. So the minimum threshold annual value, however, let me go back. So out of the 5, you cannot have all 5 coming from the mentor. So at least one of them must come from the protege. But the good thing is that the minimum threshold annual value for each domain is halved when the protege submits a contract. So for example, for the technical and engineering, if the contract is coming from the protege, the minimum annual value doesn't have to be 500K, it can be 250K and above. So half of the 500K, that is the requirement. The same rule applies for the FEP contracts too. So the value 125,000 instead of 250,000 if it's coming from the protege. And also if you're submitting as UNR unrestricted, again, the protege contract can be 500,000 instead of $1 million. The same stands for FTEs, number of contractors, and so on and so forth. So all of them are halved if the contract is coming from the protege. So that was the scoring system for this domain. Let's now discuss eligibility assessment as well as score optimization. These are the first steps that you should take. If you have multiple contracts, use a tool to first profile your contracts and see what score each will bring for you, and then which 5 QPs to select to maximize your score. I'll show you our eligibility assessment tool on the next slide. To do that, you need to read the RFP and the Q&As, usually the previous Q&As and the latest RFP documents for the original OASIS+ carefully and fully understand the requirements for each score factor. You must create a table to score each score factor for each of your QPs. Then estimate your best score and do a gap analysis of where you're short. In doing that, focus on maximizing the score on the 5 qualifying projects and maximize the use of your commercial subcontract projects if possible. Now, following your gap analysis, decide on partnering and multiple partners, maybe, to boost your score. You should consider outsourcing the eligibility assessment to ensure you have a good chance of success. Now, this is a form we use to do eligibility assessment for our clients, and I'm going to give you the link for this service as well. It makes sure that you don't spend money on something that you don't have a chance on, and also ensures you know where your gaps are to bring on team partners. So for each contract, you have to, on the column on the right hand side, the yellow column is where you actually respond to them, the value, duration, whether you use 5 FTEs or not. So these are the specific questions that we have prepared that you have to answer to, and then based on that, this is another page. Now, based on the previous slides form, our tool creates this, which independently scores each contract. The 10 columns from the right and the graphical representation of the score below it, are produced from those the previous form that I showed you, and then it automatically picks the best 5 to maximize the score. So those columns that are green are the best 5. The orange column is the final best score you get for each subfactor, scoring subfactor, with the total at the bottom. In this case, it's 44 out of 50, which is good. This is a small business submission. So this is specifically telling you, hey, you're good to go. You don't need a partner. You are a few points above the minimum threshold of 36. So everything is good. Maybe the total comes to, say, 32, in which case you know where this shows you where you're missing points and what partners to look for to actually get those points above 36. So we call this the eligibility assessment service that we're providing. And if you're interested in our eligibility assessment service, you can click on the offer tab on the right hand side panel to go to the link to read more on the service and request it if you want. Let's discuss substantiation now. Remember, the proposal you're supposed to provide is essentially the documents that prove your self-score is justifiable. These are the award document, perhaps, the statement of work, the SAO, the FPDS printouts of the contract. FPDS is the government website that has lists all the contracts. So it's considered official document when you have a printout of it. The CPARs, or the JP6 in lieu of CPAR, and the JP3 form if your contract's NAICS is not what it's supposed to be, or if you're a sub and want to prove relevance and other QP sub-factor information. So you need to tag and highlight the relevant information on each piece of document. Let's see some example of this. So this is an example award document with relevant pieces of information highlighted and tagged as well. This is an FPDS printout, again with relevant pieces of information like contract number, dates, values, etc., highlighted and tagged. So this is how you the documents. Now you can see that there are a lot of moving parts involved, so you need to know what documents you need to present to justify each point score. They're not necessarily just one document required per point score. So you need a checklist sample here, for example, to ensure that nothing is missing. This is an example of a checklist for the 5 contracts that were selected for QPs are listed at the above under 3. Those are the 5 contracts, and below it are the documents that are needed. And when it's ticked, it means that it's ready and it's prepared. So for each of the score factors, you might need different documents, and they have to be tagged, highlighted, things like that. So a lot of document management work needs to be done. Okay, so that brings us to the importance of compliance in these self-scoring proposals. Due to shortage of time, I will not go into the slides about compliance. I just want to emphasize the importance of compliance, as I've seen many companies, in fact, lose because of not paying enough attention to this and not paying the price for ensuring compliance when they're preparing their proposal. So please go through the slides that I have put in here and discuss it with your team when you are actually preparing your proposal. Now, with regards to price, there's always a question as to how price delay plays in the self-scoring proposal submission. The short answer is no score is given for price. They just check it to be within the acceptable range and complete for all items. That's it. A few points. You can refer to this slide later, but essentially you have to provide pricing for 20 LCATs at the SME subject matter expert level, and you want to make sure that you're not below the maximum you are below the maximum acceptable government rate. And that's all there is to it. They give you what is the maximum acceptable rate. You just want to make sure that you are below that. That's all there is to it. So it's very easy to prepare your price form. There's a form that comes with it. With the RFP, you just have to fill it out. Okay, teaming is extremely important in OASIS+. The short rule is if your own score cannot be above the threshold, use teaming, period. No indecision. In OASIS+, everything is about the score. Whether you get your score all by yourself or you have a team of 5 subs, for example, the government doesn't care. At the end of the day, the score is the king. Now, some key points here. I will not go into the details of all of them, but essentially, I recommend, or we recommend as our company, that if you're not 3 to 5 points above the threshold, so this is new. If you're not 3 to 5 points above the threshold, consider using a partner. You need those cushion points, those 3 to 5 points. For JVs, MPJVs, prime sub relationships, all are acceptable. You can use the partners contracts for QPs and FEPs, which account for nearly 90% of the total score. One important factor is that if you're a small business, your subcontractors must also be small under that particular domain. You can read the rest of these points that I've listed here later on when you refer back to it. And we have a free partnering portal. You can see the link here. I'll put it up on the chat as well. So you can actually register here, go find your partner, whether you want to be prime or sub, and this way you can actually communicate with them and reach an agreement and work from there. So this is a free partnering portal. We've already, I think 400 companies registered and got together during the previous OASIS Plus submission. So this is something very helpful. Okay, and this is the first page of that site. Let's now discuss strategy and share some experience. So this is perhaps the most important opportunity for many businesses for the next 10 years, or I should say 8 years. There is no competition, so use all means possible to win a seat, including partnering with other companies, either as prime or as a sub. Expand on domains. If you have past performance in any domains other than your main domain, but not the required 5 QPs, don't relent. Use partners and expand your grasp by going after multiple domains. This holds true for both small business and unrestricted tracks. For small businesses, don't stick to just your own set-aside track. First of all, you should also go for the total small business track. It's considered separate from 8A HubZone WOSB and STVOSB. It's a complete track. And secondly, if you have strong QPs, by all means go for the unrestricted track as well. Say you're sure that you get above 42, why not go for unrestricted as well? At the same time, don't be overconfident. Self-scoring proposals are all about analytical thinking. Good writing skills, which is the key strength of us proposal managers, is of no help here. You need to have good analytical thinking capabilities and good document management. Now, outsource if you have not done this before. Even if you have, get your proposal reviewed by an outside source. I've seen many companies lose because of not doing that. Now, focus on your QPs. They are the driving factor. I think I've shown that in different ways to you. First, do an eligibility assessment to understand your gaps and the need for teaming. Maximize your score. Use a per contract scoring system to see what your score looks like. If below the threshold, that's 36 for small business, 42 for unrestricted, select a partner as soon as possible. Companies are already teaming up, so you need to hurry. Ensure that you have 4 to 5 cushion points, as I mentioned previously, even if you have to partner to get them. Maximize the use of your subcontracts and or commercial contracts, if you have any. There's no difference. You get the points and that's it. Check compliance, think compliance, and eat compliance. It's really important. Don't lose time. Time is of essence. You don't want to miss the 2026 task orders. So start yesterday. Start as soon as possible. And here I wanted to share our experience in terms of the time and resources needed for the preparation and submission of the OASIS+ proposal. There are essentially 4 main phases. There is a phase 0 eligibility assessment if you're unsure about moving forward, but there are 4 main phases. Phase 1, contract selection and score optimization. Phase 2, preparation of the proposal documents. That's essentially the proposal preparation, or we call it substantiation. Phase 3, compliance reviews. It's a phase by itself, important. And then phase 4, uploading to Symphony. Symphony is the government's portal. Don't underestimate this. It usually takes 2 or 3 days. It's not a copy paste. So the graphical representation of the time and resources for each phase is shown also. So you can see that 50% of the time is spent in phase 1, contract selection and score optimization. This is the average we have found preparing over 200 OASIS Plus and other self-scoring proposals. So I just wanted to share this with you as well. So how can we help you on OASIS Plus? Here are the services we have. We have free consultation. Just we set up time to call and we discuss, answer any questions you have. Free partnering hub, which I showed you, and you can go to the website and register and then start finding teaming partners. Pre-qualification assessment. Again, I gave you the link, $490, so that you don't spend money on something that you don't have the minimum capabilities. Also, it gives you where your gaps are, so you know how to partner with others. Full proposal development with dedicated proposal team. So we do scoring, assessment, optimization, full proposal assembly, cradle to grave. Everything is on us. Full and multiple compliance checks, uploading to Symphony. All of this is on us. We are different from other companies. Some companies just give you consultation. That's not how we work. We don't give consultation. We take the responsibility, because at the end of the day, we want you to win. It's good for us, our win rate. It's good for you. You don't lose your money and you get awarded. So we take the whole, heavyweight and work, and you just provide us with the documents. We do everything else for you. And finally, for those of you who have in-house teams, we do reviewing and auditing. So we do 2 rounds of compliance checks and score optimization checks, and we also help and audit uploading to Symphony for you. So these are the services we provide. Here are contact information, myself, email and phone number, and my colleague Maron Freedy. So if you have any sales inquiries or you want to set up calls, just contact Maron. Email is usually better for both of us. Technical questions for me, and consulting and sales inquiries for Maron, and we can set up calls, jump on them and discuss any of your needs or answer any questions you might have. So here we are at the Q&A session, and I see there are quite a few questions. Let's get to it then. Question from Adam. You mentioned doing an eligibility analysis at the beginning. Exactly what are we supposed to do? Okay, so as I made it clear, there are no minimum requirements here. So essentially an eligibility assessment means coming up with the best score you can get with your current contracts and then deciding if you have enough. Remember, the 36 minimum for a small business and 42 for unrestricted, plus our recommended 4 to 5 points above that for cushion points. So after going through your contracts and your score, you're either there, so you're good and you can go to the next stage, prepare your proposal, or you're short of points and you need partners. Essentially, there is no reason for no bid. Even if you don't have enough score yourself, you can always bring in partners and use their contracts to get you a score above that threshold. So this is the reason for doing an eligibility assessment. But how to do it? You need to score each contract separately. We call it profiling your contracts. To do that, you need to set up a spreadsheet that scores each point factor for each contract independently. As I showed you, our system, you have to have something similar to that. Then you pick the best 5 contracts, the best 5 that will give you the highest score, and then you include the score for your FEPs and the systems and certs, and come up with the final score. And there you know where your gaps are as well. Now the service we provide goes through the same process. We send you the checklist so that you can fill it up for each contract. Then our proposal manager will review and score you and come back with recommendations on how to proceed, whether you can go alone or you should have partners. So that's the eligibility assessment system. Question from Angela. Do we need to submit separately for each task, for each track? We are both 8A and HubZone. Yes, you need to submit 3 proposals per domain. based on your situation. So one total small business, one 8A, and one hub zone. If you're going for multiple domains, multiply that 3 by the number of domains you're going after. That's the number of proposals that you have to actually submit. So it's a lot of work to do. Another question from Angela. Can we use the same contract for multiple tracks? What about multiple domains? So for the same domain and multiple tracks, no problem. So you can use the same contracts. For multiple domains, just make sure that you can prove relevance. That's the important part. There is no, limitation as to whether you can use or not. Question from Jake. Do our subcontracts have to have the same subcontractors? I guess you mean. Do our subcontractors have to have the same socioeconomic standing as us? No. If you're small, they just need to be small. But for example, if you're, say, women-owned small business, they don't need to be women-owned small business. Question from Alex. Explain over and under again. Okay, I will explain this with an example. Say you're an 8A going after T&E domain, but you only have 3 QPs. You know this company that is women-owned small business, and they have 3 QPs as well. So you lend them 2, and they lend you 2. So at the end of the day, what happens is that they become part of your team, your sub, for the 8A T&E submission, and you become their sub, lend the 2 contracts to them, and towards their submission as a women-owned small business T&E submission. This is called, this helps both of you get on the vehicle, and this is called over and under. Question from Jacob. Talk more about submission of our proposal. Okay, so submission is through the government's portal called Symphony or OSP. You need to create an account on it as soon as possible. Once you prepare your proposal, you must submit to this portal, but don't think it's a copy paste. No, you need to input a lot of information for each contract that you're submitting, and it will calculate your final score automatically. Now, what usually happens is that, first of all, if you don't have those information items that you need to input, it's going to take you ages to prepare the submission. Also, what I've seen is that there's usually a discrepancy between what you calculated as your score and what Symphony is calculating as your score. So you have to sit down, go through everything again and again to, find out what's the problem. Overall, you should put aside 2 or 3 days for the submission and resolution of these problems. I plan to be holding a webinar on the subject of submission to Symphony in February, and I think it will help you on that as well. Question from Mary. You mentioned that the QP contracts must have been finished within the past 5 years. What is the cutoff date? You calculate from the date of your submission of the proposal to Symphony. So completed contracts must have been completed within the past 5 years from the date that you submit. Say, for example, just an example, you submit on February 28th, last of the day of the month, then of 2026. Then the completion date of your QP or FEPs must be after February 28th of 2021, 5 years back. After that date is good. Unfortunately, we are out of time as usual, but quite a few questions remain. I apologize for not answering the rest here, but we'll answer everyone through email for sure. So thank you everyone for participating in our webinar, and I look forward to seeing you in our future webinars as well. Have a wonderful day.